Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here playing some more Warhammer combat cards, and in this one we're going to be looking at the new mechanic called Enhancements, which are additional upgrades that increase the stats of your warlords. At least they're starting with the warlords, and they may add them to bodyguards at a later point in time. And I'm looking at the developer blog here, which explains it very clearly, gives you all the information you need to know, but just going through it briefly. The enhancements have been added to the upgrade track of the warlords. So before they capped at level 13, now they cap at level 16. So there are 3 additional levels, and that's for every rarity. Levels 6, 11, and 16. At each of those levels, you can select the enhancement, and it will give you a choice between 2 random enhancements. And those provide a percentage-based increase to the stats of the card, either just health, just one attack type, or a boost to all of the stats, which in many cases I think that will be the best option. There are also different rarities, so we got bronze, silver, and gold, and the higher the rarity, the higher the percentage increase to the stats, as you can see in this little table right here. I'm kind of surprised that the Omni boost is the same for a lot of these, because I think it's a lot stronger, because, you know, obviously it's increasing all of these stats instead of one. That seems a little unbalanced to me, but we'll look at upgrading specific cards in my collection in a little bit here. You also have the option to change the enhancements after you've chosen one, so if you don't like your options, you can re-roll it spending plasma. But you will always have the choice to keep the previous enhancement you chose if you don't like the new options. And the price for re-rolling is normally 100 plasma, but just after launch it is discounted to 50 plasma. So make sure you upgrade all those warlords as soon as possible while the discount is active. So let's head into the game and see what this actually looks like. So here we are in the game. You can see there's a new little icon there indicating which warlord can be upgraded with the enhancement. The ones that don't have the icon I already upgraded. Just did a few of them to see what it was like. This is not the first time that they've changed the upgrade path, and just like last time, you may end up with a number of warlords, just depending on how many copies you have at the time, that can be immediately upgraded to the next level. And it's not necessarily an enhancement upgrade, like it's a stat upgrade here for Grafax. So for me in my collection, I actually had a total of, I believe, 9 warlords, which I can immediately upgrade. Obviously, it's going to take quite a while to go through and choose the enhancements for every single warlord. So what I'm going to do in this video is we're just going to go faction by faction. I'll choose one warlord from each faction to upgrade. We'll see what options we get and see if any are worth re-rolling. I do think because it is just upgrading the stats of the warlord, these enhancements are going to be much more impactful on the more expensive warlords, especially supreme commanders. Eldari sadly do not have any supreme commanders, but we got 2 legendary options, Eldrad and the Avatar of Cain. We'll go with Eldrad. He's one of my highest level warlords at level 13. So you can see we have 2 enhancement options here, and I do think for the enhancements, it upgrades the stats based on what the stats are at that level. So like for the first enhancement, which is at level 6, these are Eldrad stats. So it's going to be increasing those stats by a percentage. And then for the second enhancement, his stats are obviously higher. So the second enhancement is going to be more impactful. So I think generally speaking, it is better to re-roll the later enhancements, like especially at max level, if you want to try to go for gold. But in most cases, I would think that it's maybe not worth re-rolling. Anyway, let's see what we get here. So first enhancement, you just tap on the button, and it will give you 2 options. Okay, so we can either increase all of the stats by 50. We got really lucky here. We got a gold Omni enhancement. That is awesome. That's the first one I've seen. So increase all attacks and health by 15%, or just increase the health by 10%. The choice is very clear. And I think the choice is pretty obvious for a lot of these. Obviously, we're going for the gold here. So 15% boost, that is huge. Eldrad suddenly a lot stronger. You can see we still have the option to re-roll that. Obviously, it'd be really stupid to do so in this case. And yeah, so stats are increased. Now let's go for enhancement number 2 and see what we get. Okay, so we got another Omni one, or just Psychic. So again, I don't know why the percentage is same for Omni and Psychic. These are both bronze, but obviously you would choose the Omni, right? I do wish that you could actually see the stats of the Warlord here. Like, once you are presented with the options, you can no longer see what stats you're at. So make sure to check the stats before you go into the tab. I remember Eldrad did have 125 Psychic before choosing that enhancement, and now he's at 130. So yeah, pretty beefy. Eldrad is like definitely one of the strongest Psychers in the game, so even more deadly with those enhancements. Let's move on to Necrons here. So the Silent King is not at level 6, so we cannot choose an enhancement for him. I guess we could go for the Legendary again. I haven't used... Well, maybe we'll go with actually the Corpse Lord. So I do like this guy. He's a very cheap Warlord, and you can run some fun bodyguards with him. But obviously the enhancements for this guy are not going to be as impactful. Looking at his stats, he obviously has a higher melee attack. So we'd want to choose a melee upgrade rather than a ranged upgrade. I think that would have more of an impact, but we'll see what options we get here, what rarities we get. Okay, so 2 bronze, either ranged or melee. So here, obviously, I think we'd want to go with the melee because it's just going to give us, well, twice as much of a increase because the melee attack is twice as big. It's still not that much, though. So that one, I mean, we could potentially re-roll to try to get an Omni enhancement, but, I mean, at the level 6, I don't think that's going to be that great. Here, we did get a Silver Omni, so that's pretty good, increasing all of the stats by 10%. Obviously going to choose that. Alright, so there is the buffed Corpse Lord. I can't really see that much of a difference, but he is just, yeah, slightly stronger. And because he has Medicae, obviously increasing his health is beneficial as well, because that's going to give him a little, make him even more tough, you know, post-healing. Okay, moving on to Tau. Now for Tau, I think my favorite Warlord is Jaz-O-R'lyeh, but we only have one option there because he's at level 8, so maybe we'll go with Commander Farsight here. We got 2 upgrades here. So he's got 85 melee, 291 health at the moment. Let's see what we get for the first enhancement. Okay, 2 silver, pretty good. Again, Omni or just health, so we're going to go for the Omni. I really do wonder if they're going to change this in the future, change the percentages of the Omni versus just the singular stat. So now he's at 94 melee and 321 health. That was a pretty big boost. And at 39 points, he doesn't get hit by big game hunters, so that's actually pretty good. For the second enhancement, now we have a silver ranged or a bronze Omni, and yeah, Farsight does have a very low ranged attack, so there's no point in increasing his ranged. We're just going to increase everything by 5%. And here, I guess here, I'll show you the reroll. We'll see if we can reroll this into something better. So we'll spend the 50 plasma, and we'll see what we get. So we got 3 bronze options. In this case, actually, yeah, the additional option we got is worse than what we chose, so we're just going to keep what we got. So that was a waste of 50 plasmas. So as you can see, rerolling is not really that beneficial unless you just got a really terrible starting roll. Servants of the Emperor, we have a number of options here. I guess Grafax, though, level 11 legendary, that's 2 enhancements there. We'll see what we can get. Whoa, forgot to look at her stats before going into the enhancement, but okay, that's interesting. Gold, Psychic, or Bronze Ranged. Well, I mean, 5% versus 20%. I think Psychic is the lowest attack type of the 3 attacks for Grafax, but I mean, 20%. That's pretty big. Yeah, Grafax is just... So now, wow, okay, now all these stats are at the exact same amount. The other interesting thing about the enhancements now is that Warlords will have different stats. You know, you may be facing someone, you both have the same Warlord at the same level. Previously, the stats would have been the exact same, but now, like, everyone's going to be a little bit unique. Okay, so now we're getting a lot of gold for Grafax. Melee or ranged, both of those are actually quite good, and they're the same level, so really it's just a matter of preference. I can't really recall. I want to say for Grafax, I usually went with like a melee deck, which means when Grafax hits the field, I might switch to ranged, so Whoops. I was going to pick range, but I picked melee. That was a misclick on my part. But whatever. She was at 39 melee before this upgrade. Now she's at 47. And then she'll get an additional, of course, increase from her special rule. So Grafax going to be hitting pretty hard with the melee there. Moving on to Space Marines. Well, let's see. Logan Grimnar is my favorite one. He's only at level 9, so he only gets one enhancement, but yeah, we'll see what he gets here. Okay, wait, let's look at the stats. So 98 melee, 328 health. I prefer to pick the melee one because, you know, his special rule increases the melee attack. So yeah, this is actually an interesting choice here. You either increase his health, which he has a considerable health pool, by 10%. So he'd be getting like 33 health versus 4 to 5 melee. Which one is more... I would say the health is probably better, but the melee is more fun, so we're just going to pick melee here. This one might be worth re-rolling, maybe. Like, if you got a Bronze Omni, that would obviously be better than the melee. But, yeah, I'll just keep it there for now. 103 melee, that's... he passed the 100 mark, so that's cool. Okay. Moving on to Chaos. Okay, so yeah, for this one, we got some pretty fun guys. I do like the turn 1 Abaddon deck I have. I haven't used it very much because I'm not really playing ranked anymore, but turn 1 Abaddon is super fun. So this is going to be really huge, really important on this Warlord because he's on the field from the very beginning. You want him to be, you know, as strong as possible. Okay, awesome. We got a Silver Omni, so we're definitely going for that. That's going to increase his stats by a considerable amount. And once again, I forgot to check the stats before going into the enhancement tab. But yeah, look at that. Level 14 Abaddon is scary, man. Alright, so 73 ranged, 128 melee, 355 health, and he has Inspiring Presence too. That is pretty nuts. Let's go for enhancement number 2. Hopefully it's another Omni, I think. Would be best for him. And no, it's either ranged or health. 10% health. Yeah, so the silver health would be better. We'll choose that one. I am tempted to re-roll this, but let's just see how much health he has here. 387 health. And he has fear. So yeah, I mean, that's quite good, actually. Yeah, the more health he has, the better. I think we'll just keep it there. And once again, we can always go back and, you know, re-roll something later if we want, although remember the discount is only temporary. Okay, similarly for orcs, Gazgul Thraka, the old version, we can choose 2 enhancements for him. I mean, I don't really play as him very much, but so yeah, he's kind of similar stat-wise to Abaddon. Not nearly as good in my collection, but yeah, 93. And he's the one that ends up with a really massive melee attack. So it would be fun to make his melee even higher. But again, I think the Omni upgrade is probably going to be the best choice in many cases. So like here, and I actually can't remember what his ranged was. 20% increase to ranged. Wow, that's quite a bit versus 5% to everything. I think we will choose just the Omni one here. Kind of a tough choice, but we'll go back and look at his ranged attack. I think he actually has a... Okay, yeah, he has a pretty low ranged attack, so that wouldn't have made too much of a difference, even at 20%. Enhancement number 2. Okay, one more Omni or 5% ranged, yeah. Obviously, the Omni. Okay, so yeah, we got Gaz over 100 starting melee, so that's pretty cool. Tyranids, my favorite faction. The Flyant was at max level, and now it is not. You know, 50 more copies. Wow, 50 more copies to get it up to level 16. That's going to take a while. But yeah, this is one of the few warlords which I can upgrade twice with the enhancements. We also got Gosar. Gosar's pretty fun. Which one? Yeah, Gosar's one who actually does not have very high stats for his cost. We'll see what we get for him. Alright, so enhancement number 1. 10% health versus 5% to everything. Yeah, he does have a pretty low health pool, I think, but we do want to increase all of the attack stats. He also has a decent psychic in addition to melee, so yeah, that'll be okay. And then, yeah, he also has Inspiring Presence, so that, you know, compounds the attack boosts. Our next choice is, yeah, once again, just, yeah, it's a no-brainer here. Going with the Omni. So overall, about a 10% increase to his stats. Not too shabby. Alright, and finally we got the Leagues of Votan. So we only have Uthar, who I can actually upgrade now to the next level. Which is, whoa, that's a pretty big melee upgrade. So yeah, we'll grab that. And actually, I'm wondering, I want to say that he already had that melee upgrade before. Anyway, let's see what enhancement he gets. Okay, 5% health or 10% melee. We'll just increase the melee. He does have shields, so the more health he has, the better. But, I mean, he's got 3 shields, so I think he's pretty tough right now, and I think we just want to increase his range, or his melee attack some more. So 87 melee, that's not bad. So yeah, that is what enhancements look like here. And I'm liking it. It's quite fun. It's exciting when you get the gold enhancement, the sort of random factor. I was a bit iffy on it first, but I think, yeah, it adds some excitement to upgrading and, you know, gives everyone a little bit of a unique touch to their collection. So let me know what you think and which warlords you are most looking forward to upgrading with these enhancements. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.